Hello, people. Finished the book Sunday. Just a boring weekend. I've been laying around fucking reading all weekend. Warriors of God. Richard the Lionheart and Saladin in the Third Crusade. It's kind of funny that I ignored the Crusades for 20 years. And all of a sudden, like in the last 4 or 5 years, I got quite a bit in print about the Crusades. It was pretty fucking interesting. Saladin, as we all know, is very interesting. I've got a couple biographies of him. I didn't really learn anything new there, but I had never read much specifically about Richard the Lionheart. He's kind of a crazy guy. A fucking killing machine. Who knows how many fucking people he killed. How many Arabs, Saracens, whatever you want to call them. The book was written in 2001. And this guy, the author, his name is James Reston. He also wrote The Last Apocalypse, which I know I've read. I looked around for it. It's not here. So it's maybe at the cabin. Maybe it's down in Florida. I don't know where it's at. I got books in 3 different places. Written in 2001. This is a first edition. This is also a book that when I bought it at King Book, there was 2 exact same copies right next to each other on the shelf. One of them was $12, and I looked at the other one, and it was $8.50, so I bought the $8.50 one. 342 pages. It begins with a brief account of the Battle of Hattin, which Saladin was involved with, but Richard the Lionheart was not there. That, I suppose, is considered, I don't know, is that the Second Crusade? I've read an awful lot about the First Crusade, which was the most successful one when looked at from the viewpoint of the Christians. Not so much about the second. So, I mean, again, I'm looking at a place where they're used books, so I'm not ordering books. I have to get what they have. So if they don't have anything entitled The Second Crusade, which I understand was a failure. I think Hattin was actually at the end of the First Crusade. I'm not sure, but it was a great Muslim victory. And I see I've got something to read here on page 61. Second paragraph. This was something I did not know about Philip, who was the king of France at the time, and Richard the Lionheart. And France and England were kind of funny at that time. There was English nobles who lived in France and who hardly ever went to England. Prince Philip Augustus was 8 years younger than Prince Richard. Perhaps their physical attraction to one another was owed to their different natures. In any event, in their adolescence and early manhood, Philip Augustus and Richard the Lionheart had been lovers. They were everywhere together, in the delightful verbal gymnastics of turning homosexuality into a lofty sentiment. Gerard, the Archdeacon of Wales, asserted that Richard so honored Philip that by day they ate at one table, off one dish, and at night they slept in one bed, and the King of France loved him as his own soul. I did not know that about Richard the Lionheart. I mean, the modern, you think of gay men as effeminate and tiptoeing through the tulips, but that was not the case for Richard the Lionheart, because he was just a hell of a fucking warrior, and certain battles in this Second Crusade, he just waded in and killed people left and right. He was a very large man, broad-shouldered, and he could swing that fucking sword. Uh, page 93. I've got something written there about conspiracy theories. I remember writing that down and thinking, I'll never read fucking three paragraphs, but I'm going to try. Let's see how it goes. The idea was growing in the Christian world that the collapse of the Latin kingdom had been due not so much to the power of Saladin as to the decadence of the Christians themselves. Was it not true that always before, even when Christian forces were outnumbered, they had prevailed in battle, especially so when the true cross had been brought into the fray? Now their own God had permitted them to be scourged and defeated. Their own sins had caused the disaster and even required it. Saladin had become their Lord's terrible instrument of wrath. The Christian God had used the infidel to teach his own believers a lesson. Even as this notion took hold, the Lord provided a rebuke to the wrathful instrument himself. It was imagined that after the Battle of Hattin, a court jester appeared before Saladin. God has judged the Christians worthy of reproof and correction for their crimes, said the jester, and he has chosen thee, O prince, as his agent in the matter. But sometimes a worldly father in anger seizes a dirty stick out of the mire, and when he has chastised his erring sons, he throws it back among the filth where he found it. Pity the poor jester. There was, of course, no such thing as a jester in Saladin's court, and even if there were, it was hard to imagine the great Sultan standing for such an impertinence. Still, the story found an eager and receptive audience in Europe. Like turning things around, you know. Saladin wasn't great. The Muslim armies weren't great. It was the Christian God who used them, kind of like saying that the hillbillies that stormed the Capitol building were actually Antifa dressed up like hillbillies. Yeah, when the English knights, when they get ready to go on crusade, while still in England, they start out by massacring the Jews. And they talk quite a bit about the trip to the Holy Land, the English fleet, the ships that carry them over there. They're not really galleys. They're kind of like a mixture of a galley and a sailing ship. And I mean, they're oared. You know, the big ones that are supply transports have 3 layers of oars, but they all have sails too. So it's kind of around that time when maybe sailing ships are on the horizon, but they're still using oars to propel themselves. Third paragraph, page 112. Oh, I gotta go way back. Eventually I'll get there. Before the fleet had set sail, the illustrious King of England had made rules for insolent behavior among his soldiers. At his castle on the Loire, known as Chinon, before he had departed for the mobilization point of his army at Vézelay, he had promulgated laws of military conduct. If a soldier should kill a man aboard ship, the offender was to be tied to his victim and thrown overboard. If the offense happened on land, the culprit was to be tied to his victim and buried alive. If a soldier should draw blood with his knife, he would lose his hand. If he only punched a fellow soldier without drawing blood, he was to be plunged 3 times into the sea. If a soldier cursed a comrade, he was to pay an ounce of silver for every instance of abusive language. If a crusader was convicted of theft, his head was to be shaved, in the manner of a champion, before boiling pitch was poured over the top and pillow feathers scattered on the pitch. I wonder, just how boiling that pitch was. That would burn the fuck out of you. A good part of the book is the 2-year siege of Acre, and that took up much of the Second Crusade. The Crusaders end up taking Acre. It's a crazy fucking thing because you have the Muslims inside Acre, you have the Crusaders besieging it, and you also have the Muslims besieging the Crusaders that are besieging Acre. Uh, Crazy. Some crazy shit happens there. One of the craziest things is when the Muslims inside of Acre decide to surrender, they make their own terms. They don't let Saladin be part of it. And when they're released, when some of them are released at any rate, Saladin says, you guys didn't ask me about this. How am I supposed to come up with all this money and all these prisoners for a prisoner exchange? So it takes a long time. Saladin takes like a month to try and come up with this. Richard the Lionheart gets tired of this, and he marches out 2,700 Muslim prisoners and just kills them, beheads them or whatever. Page 206. Page 206 is only like one line that I found was funny. Got it. 206. And thus they ate horseflesh as if it was venison, and they reckoned it most savory, for hunger served in the place of seasoning. The rest of the book is like what happens after Acre. Richard the Lionheart does some kind of oddball marching back and forth, indecisive about whether he wants to attack Jerusalem or not. Saladin, his forces harass the Crusaders, but they really cannot just go for a pitched battle. They don't have the manpower or the weaponry to take on a large Crusader force. So Richard the Lionheart he's there. He's like 10 miles away from Jerusalem, and he decides not to go for it. So I don't know what the hell happened. And then it follows them follows what happens to them after that. Saladin dies soon after that. Richard the Lionheart is taken prisoner and held in a prison in the Holy Roman Empire, which is at that time is Germany and Austria. And one of the reasons that he's taken prisoner like that is when Acre fell, there was Austrian troops there. There was Austrian Crusaders. And the Austrian Crusaders go inside the town and celebrate with everybody else. And they put their banner up, But the English Crusaders pull the banner down and drag it around in the mud. So the Austrians don't forget about that. And when Richard the Lionheart tries to travel through Austria, they find him and they throw him in prison. And they actually ransom him for like 100,000 pieces of silver. It's an incredible thing, and that's the way things were back then. Kind of crazy. Thanks for watching.